What's up, people? It's another episode of the Mindful CEO. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, seems like we've been forever since we did this.
But we our last episode was Cottywample, which really was not that long ago. It was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, fine. So every other week. Okay,
But
fine.
when you're in the vortex of things, like what is time?
What is time?
What
And
is time?
that's what we wanted to talk about. So great episode, everybody. That was really useful. There you go. What
That was
is
our
time?
episode.
Yeah.
And scene.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my
Manifesting. We're going
God.
to talk manifesting. Let's set this up because you were listening to,
Yeah.
what was it,
I was
Freakonomics?
yeah, I love Freakonomics Radio. I love
Yeah.
Freakonomics. I love the books. I love them. I think they're awesome.
Shout out to Freakonomics.
Big shout out, despite the fact that they have Rocket Mortgage as a sponsor, which is a absurd value proposition. But other than that, I just think they're great. A great listen. I love it. And they have a what do you call it? Spinoff show called No Stupid Questions, where the two hosts go through questions. They engage authentically, not unlike this, really, sort of not scripted, and they certainly do more prep work than we do, which would be just a super low fucking bar, really low bar. But but it's not quite a full on cottywomple, but it's, it's enough that it's an authentic expression of something. And the question they were tackling is manifestation real? Can you really manifest? And, it was 15 minutes. This is not some deep Freakonomics 60-minute dive into all the science and anything about it. So they didn't touch it. And a couple of things struck me about it that I thought were discussion worthy. One is just the topic is great. I mean, is it real? And can you, and how can you? And one of the things that I thought was interesting was, it was new to them. Like, there was sort of an element of, there's this book called The Secret, and it sold 7 billion copies, and it's really popular, and like speaking to people who had never heard of The Secret. And in my view, in my life, when I look at my life, I don't think I have people in my life that don't know what The Secret is. I don't know that everyone I know believes it or uses it or is, we recently came out of the closet as woo-woo. So I don't know that everybody is talking about it or using it or thinking about it, but I don't know people that it would be like, did you hear there's this book called The Secret? And they weren't quite like that, but there was that element, there was that quality to it. And I thought that's interesting that maybe on the spectrum of where we are in, the idea of crossing the chasm, so for anyone who's not familiar with that book or that idea of crossing the chasm, the introduction of any new technology or any new thinking has a life cycle to it. And it's, there's the early adopters, the people that will try everything and anything that's new because it's new. It could even take more work. It could even be harder or more expensive, but these people try new things.
Yeah.
And they love them and they use them and and it takes enough of those people to build up, because there's a chasm between those people, the early adopters, and mainstream life, the rest of the bell curve. Right? If you pictured adoption as a bell curve, the left-hand side of the curve are the early adopters, and then there's a chasm.
Yeah.
And it takes a couple of people in mainstream to look over and look to see what the early adopters are doing until you build up. So you need those people, and I forgot what those people are called, those first
early majority.
Yeah. Like those people need to be enrolled, and and there's a chasm there. So any new technology faces that a challenge of getting across that chasm. Reminds me of that interesting, it's now interesting, or it's interesting in this context, video. You ever see there's a guy dancing at a music festival?
Yeah.
You've seen that video?
Yeah, it looks like the gorge, but yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere, right? He's on a hill and he's dancing, and he's just wildly, drunkenly, or going for it. Maybe not drunk, maybe just stoned, or maybe just dancing. Who knows? Right. I don't want to impose how I would be on him. Okay.
Yeah, but
But
he's
he's
going for it.
dancing, and
Yeah.
when he's dancing alone, and it's cool. It's just, look at this weird guy. And then a second person comes over and starts dancing with him. And nothing really changes. It's just two people now dancing. But as soon as the third person goes over and joins him,
Mm.
in rapid succession,
Mm.
it winds up being
Mhm.
everyone around him is this huge scene of dancing. And it's the third person that makes the difference.
Wow.
But you don't get to a third person without a second. But it was a really interesting sort of visualization, or a way of seeing the chasm, crossing the chasm work.
Right.
One person doesn't do it. Two people don't do it, but enough people on that side, and some people leap over. All of a sudden, the thing gets a groundswell. Ooh.
Oh, extra credit. Way to
There it
use
is.
groundswell in a sentence. That's beautiful. That's right.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
That's it. And scene.
And it got me thinking about, we came out of the closet on being woo-woo last year sometime, but it's not like that was the first time we've ever engaged in being woo-woo. We just have been embarrassed about it, or, embarrassed about it. Let's just keep it that. But I sort of feel like manifestation is in late stage.
Right.
It's
already moved through the bell curve.
It's already moved through the bell curve. I mean, like, who doesn't deal with manifestation? But that Freakonomics is speaking about it like, is this real? It struck me like maybe my experience of the bell curve is off, that maybe I'm such an early adopter that I've been engaged with it so long that I'm misjudged where everyone else is.
Yeah. Right. I think that there's multiple thoughts. One is there's bell curve inside the bell curve.
Ooh.
There's a early and late majority of early adopters.
Ooh, the double bell curve.
Early adopters, laggard early adopters,
Double bell curve. Nice.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because when I really think about it, I think, like, there's a lot of population in places at third world countries don't have the internet. I don't know what. Like, I just think my world that I live in, my bubble, is the way it all is everywhere.
Right.
And for that matter, I'm so clear that who I'm looking for are those who already see what I see. I'm looking for those who already believe manifestation is a thing and practice it. And, I don't need to convince anybody that. So of course, my world has been built around those with a similar perspective. But
right, people like us do things like this, and you naturally, just even from just an actual law of attraction perspective,
right?
If you were going to
totally
double reference it, it would be that naturally we would be surrounded by people who do that. We're not particularly interested in.
Yeah.
I haven't really engaged in, creating opportunities for people who don't know what manifestation is to find out what manifestation is. That although that, when they said that manifestation had 8 billion hits on the hashtag,
for Instagram.
I'm a boomer, so I don't know what that means.
You're Gen X, bro. You're not a boomer.
I am actually the last year of boomer.
What? No way. Oh, that explains so much to me.
Get the fuck off my lawn, bitch. I am
great.
Boomer. Yeah. What comes after me? Gen X?
Yeah, I'm like towards the end of Gen X. Jenny is Gen Y, I believe. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. You're all millennials.
Okay.
Just to be clear, everyone after me is a millennial. I don't have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we're talking about.
I want to acknowledge your dexterity with technology and AI, though.
Yeah, thank you.
You are. Thank you. Early adopter.
Neuroplasticity. Someone posted. I forget what it was, but if Austin Powers was made today. Yeah, or the timeline for Austin Powers was, I got to read it to you because we were talking about time and the madness of time.
Right.
I love this. I hated this, but I loved it. Where is it? Oh, no. If the movie had taken place on the same time scale, but had been released today, Austin Powers would have been frozen in 1994.
Wow.
What?
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 That's yeah. What?
What? So,
Yeah.
fuck
That
all
trips
y'all.
me out.
That trips you out, right? That's like, that's how little in reality you and I are. That's how
like when
little
people
touch.
say 1960 is closer, or 2060
Yes.
is closer than, whatever,
1917, right?
19.
Whatever.
What?
Which I can't, the math is just, but anyway, but that's like messed up. Anyway. So there you go.
I want to add, there was another thought that came up for me, which was that the idea that, and actually it came to me not as manifestation, but as mindfulness, that mindfulness as an early adopter idea. Early adopters could say, hey, I can get access to more flow if I practice mindfulness, and I'm an early adopter who's leaning into, altered states to try to enhance my performance. And the rest of the world doesn't do that, but I do it. And then mindfulness becomes so popular that people in the early and late majority are using mindfulness because it's just more efficient and economical to be mindful than it is to not. So the idea of mindfulness moving through the bell curve, right? You could use the same idea with manifestation. That manifestation was an early adopter concept, and then later on that it becomes adopted by the early and late majority. Anyway, I just thought that was
well, so it's interesting. Not sure what you're saying, but this is what I heard in what you said. So, but tell me if this is the point you were trying to make, because I don't know what the point you're trying to make is. The utility of something being pushes it into, like, if something becomes useful in a new way, it goes through that same bell curve.
Yeah.
Like, if mindfulness has been around since the Buddha. So let's not, there are no early adopters of mindfulness left. There just aren't, but mindfulness has been around for centuries. So you can't say you're an early adopter of mindfulness. You could say you're an early adopter of mindfulness, is using mindfulness or practicing mindfulness as an access to proficiency in business, or its application to, as an antidote to the hustle culture, because hustle culture isn't centuries old. And if you were going to, look for something there, but then mindfulness then shows up as, there's a new bell curve for mindfulness. Is that what you were trying to, or is that just a new thought?
I'm not even sure anymore what my point was. I feel like we were talking about the bell curve and early adopters, and how manifestation is a, like, we're kind of scratching our head, like, hasn't manifestation like touched everyone in the world? Like, is it really, like, why is Freakonomics, who are very intelligent, how are they talking about this like they've never heard it before?
Right. And there was a little bit of that, especially because it does seem like there's actual now science, right? I'm going to use words that I don't quite know what they mean, but I think they point in the direction. Quantum entanglement is a phenomenon that demonstrates the possibility of manifestation, of that what you think about changes reality. That Einstein was very clear, we're all just vibrations, right? These are not, Einstein's not as old as the Buddha, but it's certainly hardly like, oh, here's a new idea, we're all vibrations. I mean, that's and so those, but it could be that, so it's interesting. I am sure there are people in the middle of wherever, right? Always think the middle of America, but it could be middle of any, like you were saying, without this always makes me think of the elite in the Hunger Games. Like, I'm one of the people, the people in the, anyway,
in the capital.
The capital, right? But there are people that don't engage with this on a regular basis. And so quantum entanglement isn't something that I'm not familiar with it enough to know what it is or be able to talk about it in any real way, other than I know that it exists and it has something to do with particles behave differently when observed. And that's, that's, I guess, enough to be dangerous. But
Yeah.
But it does definitely imply that our attention creates reality,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and they were thinking about it as a much baser kind of conversation. I don't mean baser like less than, I mean baser like not the quantum entanglement side of it,
Yeah.
but just like, writing your manifestations, what you're committed to three times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times at night.
Mm.
Like you've heard that practice, right? Of writing what you're creating. If it's certainly not like
Yeah.
some,
Yeah. Actually,
right,
a friend of
right.
mine has that 369 book.
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
So, but whatever, writing your manifestations at all, writing, none of that's like, whoa, can't believe journaling. Shit, that's a great idea. Um,
Mm.
and they were thinking about it like, well, of course, if you have your goals written down and are dealing with them 3 times a day,
Yeah.
you're naturally going to act more consistent with fulfilling on those goals. It highly increases your likelihood of getting it, which is all completely accurate. It's just great. It doesn't speak to the quantum entanglement woo-woo side
Yeah.
of manifestation, but it does speak to,
Yeah.
that focus, the power of focused activity makes a difference, which is not a small part of manifestation. I mean,
Yeah.
if you just thought about stuff and didn't act, it's hard. No one is sitting here saying you can just sit, meditate, and money shows up when you wake up. I mean, that's not, it's
Yeah.
the action that ignites the whole thing.
What stood out to you about, like, if you thought about our audience, people who are tuning in because they like mindfulness, they would, I would assume, know and understand the concept of manifestation. So what's the point for them in the whatever you got out of
Well,
Freakonomics?
one is just to reflect on where you assume you are in the
Mm,
life cycle
sure, sure.
of your own and of the people around you. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. That's nice.
um,
Mm,
are you, like you said, I mean, we all do, I think, default to a certain extent that our view of life, for sure, we all default to our view of life is life.
right.
Right. I mean, there's not one human being that doesn't look out and see things and think what they're seeing is an accurate reflection of reality.
Yeah.
And despite the complete and utter sham that is, right? I mean, there's no your view of life is not life. It is 100% your view.
Right.
And I mean, it intuitively, your view of life is not the same as my view of life. So how could what you see be reality? Right? It's your reality, right? So I think we all, but given that takes a little bit of distinction to be able to see that,
Yeah.
um, I think we think that everyone thinks of mindfulness the same way.
Yeah.
And it could be that, and it is that there's an entire scale, and there are people for whom mindfulness or manifestation or
Yeah.
law of attraction or,
Right.
it doesn't show up on their radar as something to,
Yeah.
work with. And so, to assume that that's been played out,
Right.
that was what I got out of it. To assume
Yeah.
that's been
Yes.
played out is,
Yeah. Yeah.
could it be
I was.
untapped? I mean, is this an indication that it's untapped?
Mm,
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
mean, 8 billion people with the hashtag manifesting shows that it's not untapped.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting too, because if I take the conversation and ground it into the CEO side of
Mhm.
this conversation, um, we think about, like, hire. I was having this conversation the other day about hiring and how we hire, who we look for. We often put our job descriptions together and our hiring process, looking for skill sets and experience, and not looking for belief structures, lenses, paradigms. And I think, if you as a CEO of your life, your business, whatever, really believe in manifestation, you have read The Secret a million times. Like, there is an operating system that you have to your life and your business. And then who you look for as an operational person or a VA or somebody is somebody who doesn't share that. Then you could be putting oil and water together, in the sense of, like, what's running your show is not what's running their show.
Mhm.
and now you might be getting performative efficiencies from them, but you have a misalignment of energy, you know? So when they're like, why we need to get this done, let's go. And you're like, hey man, we're just going to flow. Let's just like lean into the good vibe and get in the river and point our boat downstream and and it'll manifest. And your team is like, what? Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, if you're not clear about what's important about who you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right. That's the case. So this show brought all that up.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, that's super interesting that I don't have, and it was such a short episode. And I really was also left a little, I'm going to call them because I do think it's especially because quantum entanglement exists. And I'd like to know more about it. And I think Freakonomics would have something fascinating to say about it because they could do that work. And that's sort of what they get paid for. I mean, they get paid with my attention to do that. And then,
I love that.
To figure that there is a connection there. I mean, Jamie gave me this great book. I don't know if you remember Jamie Amadon, but Quantum Success.
Oh, nice.
Which I'm reading. And, it's quantum success. It really is, the law of manifestation is the first chapter. And then it's the law of, let's see. It is about this whole world of quantum entanglement. So there's the law of manifestation, the law of magnetism, the law of pure desire, the law of paradoxical intent, law of harmony, law of right action, law of expanding influence. And I don't know, it's cool. The other thing that I'm just getting into it, but it's, that does come from that world of quantum physics. The other thing I thought was interesting in there is they did no work to investigate Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
Who's, a neuroscientist. This is not like he's not, it's not some guy on a park bench.
Right.
He's got actual data about what the brain does in terms of creating its reality. And, and I think all of that. And so I think you asked me like how that ties into mindfulness. And, I think one of the ways it ties in is that takes a relatively strong, mindful approach to stand in seeing life the way it is. Right. I mean, that is what we're doing when we're sitting, is we're just experiencing life in the moment. And just anyone watching, listening, that's practiced sitting knows you got to practice sitting.
Yeah.
You can't, your mind will not shut off without practice. Your mind will not just shut the F up and observe without practice. It just won't. And especially now that we're have so many easily accessible distractions where the brain is not interested in stopping. System 2 is not interested in giving over to system 1. And so and then the opportunity it is to create gratitude. That's the other thing he didn't talk about, or they didn't talk about in the show, was gratitude at all, and the access that gratitude is to manifestation. I mean, it was a very cursory kind of conversation, but that's, in the book I'm writing, I told you about this, right? The gratitude book is, I think I got it down to this idea of sort of looking at it from the title, right? Like trying to get a clickbaity worthy title, right? Like we say clickbaity and it sounds derisive, and I guess you are being derisive or contemptuous when you say clickbaity. But, the best example of that I ever heard was there's a big difference between outsourcing your business to make more free time as a title,
Mm-hmm.
and the 4-Hour Work Week.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Those are just different books,
Right.
and they're the same fucking book.
Yeah.
But if we is the 4-Hour Work Week clickbaity? I mean, it's definitely more click worthy. I mean, I bought the 4-Hour Work Week, and I don't think I would buy How to Outsource Your Life and Have More Free Time. I don't,
Right. Right.
So
That's a whole other episode on what constitutes clickbait, because I have thoughts about that. But yeah, no, I'm glad it was called the 4-Hour Work Week, because I read it and loved it, and I thought,
exactly.
glad I picked it up.
No problem. So I was thinking about it. There's a conversation in gratitude, or in my view, of what necessary for gratitude, of choice.
Yeah.
And without choice, you don't really get any kind of say about gratitude. Without choice and the world of choice, we're now going in a whole separate, well, this is the access to manifesting. Really, gratitude as an access to manifesting is right here. So,
yeah.
But without choice, you get to be grateful whenever good shit happens.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't get to be grateful when bad things happen, which means you have no power. You're a leaf in the wind. You just have to hope for or try to get good things to happen. And that's, antithetical to manifesting, right? The opportunity of manifesting is, and why Joe Dispenza say, and Esther Hicks, and they talk about gratitude is the ultimate point of attraction, because your vibration of being grateful for the way it is in the moment is going to, if you can actually get the feeling of gratitude rolling, you have the opportunity to manifest more of that.
Yeah, I love that.
That feeling of being grateful. And without choice, you don't get it. And, the opposite of choice is being a victim of something. You're either responsible or you're the victim. I mean, there's no other two ways to deal with it. You're either at the effect or you're at cause. And cause is a function of choice. And so anyway, the working title in my head is Stop Whining, Be Grateful, Kick Ass. And, nice. And that's where, because the stop whining part is the choice part, because I can hear it now all over the places. People relationship to things is, to complain.
Yeah. That feels like our next podcast episode.
It does, right? We could definitely
stop whining. What was it?
Stop whining, be grateful.
Be grateful, kick ass.
Kick ass.
I love how each of those holds something too.
Yes, exactly. Right. I mean, I was looking at it. It's not a Venn diagram, as much to my dismay.
Oh, dang it.
I know, but it is a step.
Oh, good. All right. Well,
it's a ladder. It's 1, 2, 3.
That's second best. Yeah.
Right. You've got to stop whining. And then you have the opportunity to be grateful, which you must do. And then you get the opportunity to kick ass. And it's more like a cycle, frankly. It's, now that you've kicked ass,
right,
you've got to keep not whining, right? Because there'll be new things to whine about.
No, that's great. I love that.
All right. So anyway, but that's how that connects to manifestation. So tune in next week for thinking, because I really have done a bunch of thinking about this and want to keep, I got to get it pounded out and, smoothed out, because that's the thing.
Love that.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah.
I love that. Well, we could stop here. I had another thought, but it might take us down another road. So maybe we save it for next time. But
okay, let's save it for next time. Oh, there's a cliffhanger. There's some clickbait.
Click. It's a click invitation.
There you go.
Those of you that want to learn more about the Mindful CEO community, don't forget to go to themindfulceo.com/invite. Pretty excited about that, Aaron. We're going to launch here pretty soon.
Yeah, very excited.
There's just some real power in having others who are walking a similar path.
Yeah. Yeah.
To your point about Freakonomics thing, like for years when I heard smart people, like Freakonomics type smart people talking about things that weren't addressing my woo-woo beliefs, I thought maybe I'm wrong for having these woo-woo beliefs, because smart people seem not to be talking about it. So maybe, even though I watched The Secret in 2006, there was a lot of years where I heard smart people not talking about the things that were important to me, thinking maybe I'm not right. So there's some power in hanging out with others who are, early adopters like you are. And that's what we're doing at the Mindful CEO. So come hang out with us, themindfulceo.com/invite.
Yep. Yay!
Next time.
Join us.
Kick ass, man.